Well, all right, guys, welcome back to the Stormwater Creek podcast. It is just Abe today, so no little quips or cut downs from Jared on today's podcast. So we'll see how smoothly this one goes as opposed to a normal one that has full of rabbit trails and momentum killers, as our friend Jared is just world renowned for just stopping down the podcast. So, but we're joined today by Donny Espey from Nothing Fancy Co. So, Donny, tell everybody hi.
Yeah, Abe, thanks for having me, man. Everybody who doesn't know, this is probably our 18th attempt of trying to get on together.
No doubt.
Whether I had to cancel or he had to cancel, it's just been hectic with everybody's work season.
It's like before duck season.
Yeah,
we've been trying to get this thing done. So, and it's now
I lived
February.
in Texas at the time, and now I'm in New York. Moved halfway across the country.
Yeah,
but happy to be on. Happy to talk whatever it is we're going to be talking about. But like I said, just happy to be here.
Yeah, what really, I know we had kind of played the back and forth game a couple times, but then I was sitting in like an airport, just waiting to load a plane, and I looked over and somebody had one of the hats on, and I was like, oh
really?
Shit, this is clearly ordained that this has to happen. So
yeah.
That was always one of those things that it was like, okay, this has got to happen. We got to keep doing this. So
yeah, that's cool.
But we also kind of know you from the Hella Dry guys, who were really close with, those boys.
Yeah, I think that's probably what got this conversation started. I did a little bit of work with them, just some side work and just being buddies with them. Just wanted to work with them, and they're awesome. Jordan and Jason are the bomb.
Yeah, they're just cool dudes. Now that whole thing started like you getting a tattoo, which we've got horrible tattoos on this podcast, and it's so what was the genesis of that whole thing about you getting a tattoo?
I think so. Like that whole group chat, like that's all just people like who I tend to have a lot of good times with, whether it's actually hunting or hanging out at trade shows or going out to the bars, like whatever it is. I just like all those people. And there were some people in there, like you guys, who I didn't know right away. So I'm like, oh, they need to know who I am right away and like how I roll. So free tattoo as advertising. I think it was they kind of announced the new name of the Tortuga.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, if everybody can share a post, it'd be awesome, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, not only will I share it, but I'll get a tattoo of the backpack.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'll ever do it, but it was more of a joke than anything else.
You got to get yourself just like a little turtle tattoo. That way it's
I want to get something. I want to get something.
Get yourself a little Tortuga tattoo. We'll have Jared. Jared is our resident tattoo artist. So we, a couple years ago, he worked in tattoo studios forever, and he started tattooing us. And so we've got, every year we go to this little thing called Hogorama, and it's like, all right, let's put a tattoo. So I've got a unicorn with a rainbow horn. I've got a duck that looks kind of like I don't know if you can see this, but that right there is a tattoo that was on that we got tattooed. We got a pig, a crab, all kinds of things. So it was when I saw that, I was like, oh man, we'll get Donny a tattoo. We'll get Jared to do it. We'll do it upright, and he's got the gun and everything, and it's a lot of fun, but get yourself like a little turtle, like upside down turtle or something, Yeah. Little HD in the turtle shell or something.
When we were with them, we went to the Live in the Blind event put on by Mallard Bay, and they were giving out free tattoos upstairs. So if you're part of the VIP access, you can go upstairs, and they would give you free tattoos.
It was like Sheep Show.
Yeah, they probably had like three. They probably had like 3 binders that you could go through, and it was all duck hunting related tattoos that the artist had pre-picked out that he could rip out in like 30 minutes
just like
or something.
Simple little ones, yeah, that would be. I would 100% be like, all right, let's get this thing done. We've talked with our buddy JT about doing that at Sheep Show. He goes there every year, and we were going to go out with him this year, and ended up not happening. But
where's Sheep Show?
It's in Reno.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can go there if you've ever that's probably the best way that you're in without just dropping a chunk of change that you could draw a goat tag. So like my buddy JT, they auction off and raffle off a goat tag for anyone who's killed no sheep. So if you've killed no sheep, it's called the Less Than One Club. Then they kind of have this big raffle, and it's all like the whole goal is to get out of the Less Than One Club, right? But they raffle it off, and so you go to sheep show, hang out in Reno, and maybe get a goat tag.
Maybe a tag. That's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, he shot one in like Kazakhstan, I think. We did a whole episode on it. It was crazy. And then we've also talked to I think our boy David Frisbee, who's over at he's at Gator Waders, and he did a goat hunt over there. Had some crazy stories. We did that too. So, you into any kind of things like that? The goat hunts?
I'd love to do something like it if I was given the opportunity. I don't think I'll ever chase the opportunity. I think the one big game animal, like I don't do a lot of big game hunting. Would probably just be like an elk or a mule deer. Like I'd love to get an opportunity to do something like that, but I really stick to birds. Yeah, it's simpler. I don't know. Like I enjoy the simplicity of it. Like there's not a lot of cleanup. There's not a lot of haul in, haul out, other than ducks. But I love a boat, so all my decoys are on the boat. I think that's what I really like about that. And I don't know why. I guess we can get into my duck hunting a little bit. It's like I like the manipulativeness of bird hunting, where you have a lot of control about, like, as long as you're in the general area where the birds want to be, I feel like it gives you a good fighting chance.
Yeah, you can.
Where for like deer hunting, it's like, oh, hope I picked the right, spot, like around here. And obviously you guys can get a lot more into it than that, and I'm just not there yet. But
yeah. So did you grow up hunting, or are you kind of like an adult onset hunter?
I got exposed to it my first time when I was 14. I got taken out by my neighbor. My neighbor's actually the one who's taught me how to hunt and fish and all that stuff. My dad hasn't hunted. He hunted in his family when he was younger, but just with his career and stuff, never got into it. But I would say hardcore hunting, I probably started going out on my own and doing all that during college. I met a couple buddies that just had a really good, team support system where, hey, I'll buy goose decoys, you buy woodies, hey, someone else buy mallards. I got the canoe, we can put the decoys in there. Like that's where you kind of start to get the system down, find out what gear you need, and then from there on out, like that's just when it took off.
It's that's the tester vial of crack. Is oh well, now we need a canoe. Oh well, now we need a boat. Well, now we need a dog. Now we need
That's what I honestly like about duck hunting too, compared to big game stuff. Is like you are allowed the product that is like not a necessity. Yeah. So you can have like I have never put a grill or anything in my boat like that, but like the opportunity of doing that's cool. Like being able to have a snack, talk a little bit, have some banter back and forth.
Oh yeah,
like that's what I really enjoy about duck hunting the most.
And I'm a big
gearhead too.
Oh, absolutely! Like that's the thing. It's just so much gear and cool shit to do. But I'm with you. Getting to hang out with your friends and talk and go through that whole experience is it's great. And I mean, obviously, like hunting a deer, I did that for a long time with a bow on public land, and it's for me, it was a very solo adventure, which was great, and I enjoyed it. And I've done a lot of solo duck hunts. They're still not, those are still kind of my like. All right. Well, I've had some good times doing it because I've had some cool experiences, but it's always better with friends.
I think the one big thing about that too is finding your confidence. I have no problem going solo duck hunting because I've shot enough ducks. Yeah. I've had enough fall into the water, like whatever it is that could possibly happen. Like things have happened in that sense where I know what to do. I feel comfortable going alone, and I feel comfortable knowing what shots to take. Stuff like that. Like this past muzzleloader season, I got access to some private property for deer, so I've been going a lot. I probably went 20 times, and I saw a deer every time I went, but I never felt comfortable enough to take a shot because I don't know if that's a good shot or not. Yeah. So that's why it's nice to be going with people for the first time, because if you don't build that confidence, you really can't go solo and enjoy yourself solo. So
I mean, it's such a learned thing that you have to. For me, it was always just you have to go and do it, right? If you want to, you got to kind of bust through there and make some mistakes. But I'm the same way as you, man. I grew up in a family. My dad had, we had guns. We grew up on a ranch. We, it was never anything like, oh, we don't hunt in this family or anything like that. It was just he didn't do it, so I didn't do it. We shot. We grew up shooting guns, and then I got into it, kind of the same thing, kind of high school. Got taken out a couple times, and then same thing. Got into my I started kind of really hunting in my mid-20s, like 27, 26
Same.
is really when I guess it was 25 when I really started going, and then 26 and 7 it hit, and then all through my 30s, and then till I die now.
My duck hunting took a giant leap the winter after COVID. I had been in between jobs, and New York was lucky enough to be paying unemployed people at the time.
Yeah.
So I had a boat at the time, and I went every single day.
Let's go duck hunt.
Scouting, all that new stuff. So that was like the time where I really developed like using Onyx to find new spots, everything I could think of to increase my game, new decoys, new gun, like whatever it was at that time. That was the time I did it. And now, like
but doing it every day was the most important thing, right? Like that. Huge. I feel like that's where you're gonna, you can get by with a cheap gun, you can get by with cheap decoys, but if you don't know where to go find ducks at, well, it doesn't matter if you got an SB3 or what. It's still you're just taking your gun for a walk.
You learn the behavior really quickly when you can repeat it and see it in repetition day after day. It's harder to understand where you do like, hey, I do 3 weekends a year. It's like, usually these 3 weekends they do this, they do that, and they do this. But trying to fight it and find it every single day was a real challenge, and that's what I really liked about it. Is it's a small stretch of river, probably 20 miles, but there's so many birds on it, but you got to find that 30-yard stretch
section.
Where they all it's like they could pick 30 yards down and you're done. So it's cool trying to be able to pick them off that portion of the river.
Yeah. I'm down here in Dallas. Jesus Christ. I'm down in Galveston. I'm on the coast of Texas. So for me it's few, we run a little bit of some rivers, but mainly it's the marshes. You're just everywhere in marshes trying to hunt them, and it's like you said, it's just okay. The worst part about that is I see them. I'm like, I can see their ass over there, and I just they're 400 yards away, and they want nothing to do with. They're going over there. That's it. So it can be frustrating, but like I said, you just kind of dial that in, and I think when you do hit it, it's like, oh, this is a lot of fun,
Yeah, and I feel like that's like back to deer versus duck. Like that's part of the intuition of like I would rather be duck hunting than deer hunting because. It's like, oh, I saw him. We're right there. We were so close. But deer, it's like there's nothing worse than going to the stand and not seeing anything all day and just sitting there.
I used to live in Dallas, and once again, kind of as an adult onset hunter, didn't have access to places to go, so I had to go to public land. And obviously, in the state of Texas, it's a
hard part,
challenging proposition for a lot of times, especially for deer. So I went and I hunted. I don't have any kids. My wife is very forgiving, thankfully, and she was, so I'd go out every weekend, and I would hunt. So sometimes I could hunt closer to the house, sometimes not. But I hunted every weekend for two deer seasons, and never once saw a deer in the daylight.
Yeah,
and it was like, whew, this is
just
brutal.
Taking a walk.
Like I am just like, man, I am just walking out here with snacks, just sit in a tree and see nothing, and I just do it over and over and over again, and finally got some spots, and then I was just like, well, I met these buddies of mine who are on the podcast now, Austin and the boys. They duck hunted a lot, so I deer hunted, they duck hunted. We kind of started hanging out. And then it was like, oh, this is way better than deer hunting. I'd rather, at least if we don't see anything, I got to hang out with my friends, in the marsh,
Yeah.
So it was but it's a great way to figure it out is to go do it by yourself. And, the confidence that I think you build when you do get around other people, because you kind of know what's going on. And to me,
a lot more attention.
You just kind of aware. Yep. And then you develop that, like you were talking about, it is a little nerve-wracking when you are going out and you're thinking about in terms of like, what happens if I turn this boat over? What happens if I get hurt? How do I get out of here?
Yeah.
Thankfully I was in Boy Scouts. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I can get out of here if I had to. So, but yeah, you add that elk, you add that mountain stuff to it, then you really get to, to really see it. So.
That's like that's just a preparation. Like I'm not ready for it. Don't have the time for it. It's like I don't want to go where like right now. It's like I know I'd be out of breath. I would, like all this stuff. You have to train forever to go and do it.
in the middle of it now for elk season this year. It's like my brother and I are like, all right, 365 more days of hockey season. Let's go. It's just nonstop. You can't. The first year we went up there, we tried to work out for like a month, 2 months before, and just like didn't. It just kicks the shit out of you. And I'm from the coast. He's from Baton Rouge. I'm from the coast, or Dallas, which is 70 feet off the way. It's not like it's anything. So you get up there and it just whips the hell out of you. And so we better and better shape and finally get it, but it's tough. So, ducks over big game. Yeah, but if you were gonna go hunt something, what would you think, like mule deer, elk, or like a bear? If you were gonna do something like out west,
I'd probably try to do an elk. We get a decent amount of black bear from where I'm from right here. So like I'm in upstate New York. I guess that's one thing we didn't mention. I am in between. I'm like probably 3 hours from the Canadian border in northern New York. So I'm up there. We get a lot. I see a lot of bears. Like in my property that I got to hunt this year, lots of scat, lots of tracks. So like there's a legitimate chance I kill a bear almost every year. So that's. For me, like
you check that box.
That's not like something I'm trying to travel.
Those are like pigs for me in Texas.
See, I lived in Texas for a year, and that was one thing I never got. That was I really wish I could have got that down. I only went a couple times, but it'd probably be an elk. I feel like that's one thing when like I want to see it. I want to be in the woods when they're bugling, like doing the whole shebang. I want to be a part of that.
Yeah, it's. I mean, if you're not already, you should start getting those points because it's getting harder and harder every year to get it done. So, and that's a whole other thing. It's just getting used to the points and getting used to and that's another set of gear to get, And so, it's always fun, but it's, I've killed two now, and
sometimes.
Especially when you kill one and you walk up and you're like, Jesus Christ, what have I done? This is way bigger than I thought it was.
This is like a horse. My backpack.
No, I'm not. This is not a whitetail. I'm from Texas, and our whitetails are so small. You just pick them up and throw them out. It's 100 pounds, and it's like that's a big one.
Yep. Household dogs.
A big white-tailed dogs. But okay, so. The clothing company. How did that whole come around?
Yeah.
What's the history there?
Yeah, so I first met Jackson. Jackson Grove is the owner of Nothing Fancy. I used to work for a fishing rod company called Douglas Outdoors, and we were at the Bassmaster Classic. And Douglas Outdoors had a ton of awesome camera equipment, and I would film and travel and do all kinds of stuff. So kind of got a little name for myself, nothing crazy, just, when I'd meet people, I show them what I did, and they, wanted to hang out, and just my personality, I think, we always meshed, whoever it was I was trying to hang out with. And at the show, I saw their booth, and I was a big fan of Hardy at the time. And I kind of realized, like, hey, like, maybe I can, I like their hats, Hardy wears them, blah, blah, blah. Like, maybe that's a good connection. They would do something with Douglas rods. Who knows? So I walked over with the camera, big fancy camera, probably like $8,000 in my one hand.
Yeah.
And we're walking around, and that's why it was at trade shows, is you walk around with a big fancy camera, maybe something happens.
Hey, come over here. Yeah.
So I was walking around.
You know how to use that thing?
Yeah. I'll do it for free.
Yeah.
One plastic one Senko.
Yeah.
But I'm walking around, and I hopped in and was like, hey, man, huge fan of Hardy. Like, how'd you get like all that to happen? And then you just kind of explain the story of how that met, and you can listen to that story on our first episode of the Nothing Fancy podcast. And he's just like, oh, he just wears my hats, blah, blah. I'm like, well, dude, I'd love to shoot like a little promo or something. So I shot him a little promo, did some videos, talked to his buddies. And then that night, I texted him, I was like, hey, I'm going out here. You want to come out? And his whole crew came out.
Oh,
so I hung with them, did some shots of tequila with them, hanging out. And it's like the next day in the booth, it's like, oh, man, crazy night last night. Just like the typical guy talk.
Yeah.
And from there on out, like, I didn't think I've made that large of an impression. Like, I had done that with so many people so many times. And then he sent me a care package, started wearing the hats a ton. And from there, it just kind of bloomed. Like, he hooked me up with a sunglass company. I started working with the sunglass company a bunch. I started sending him videos and TikToks and all kinds of stuff for him to use for ads. Like, I've been on the website before I ever started working there.
Yeah.
And he called me some advice when I was at a company that I was kind of getting ready to get out of Texas, be done. And he had called me. He was like, hey, I'm thinking about hiring a marketing firm and doing something along the lines of X, Y, and Z. I was like, yeah, you can do that. You can also just hire me, and like jokingly. Yeah. And he's like, wait, really? And I'm like, yeah, are you kind of serious? He's like, yeah, I think so. I'm like, dude, I quit this job in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So
I could start now.
Yeah. He called me with his lawyer and it was just like, hey, if we're serious about this, here's what we're thinking. You know, here's blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I was like, where do I sign? Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
And that just a random thing. And like I had been looking for an opportunity to do something different. And I put myself out there 1%. Like that's what it takes sometimes is just to put yourself like, hey, oh yeah, I'd love to do that. Just don't pay them, pay me. Like the littlest comment. Yeah. And it got me this awesome job. So I'm super thankful for that. Super thankful for the little connections you make at the trade shows like you do. They're way more meaningful than I guess than I ever expected. So that's why I love going to them so much. And I don't mind the travel work at all.
Yeah. It's almost like the people that are there to hang out are like the people that are there to like look at the trade show are secondary to everybody just like, all right, hey. Like
that's sometimes what it feels like. Like they're there. Yeah. Like
especially
that's
like on a
point.
Sunday afternoon, you know, when you're like, 4 more hours.
Like when I go there, like that's definitely 100% true. Like I'm there for the customers, 100%.
Yeah, sure.
I'm there for them, but I'm there to also see my buddies. And
yeah, exactly.
I think the buddy system in a lot of these trade shows is what one keeps the trade show going and makes so many businesses so successful. Like
Absolutely.
There's so many times I bounce ideas off of other guys or they bounce it off of me because we have such a tight relationship. We trust each other, so sharing information is never a problem. Like that's what I love about that. Like when you get a really good trade show crew, it's the best.
Everybody helps each other. Like you said, it's just such a good community of people that are. And like you're in the middle of that now, right?
Yeah. So like the big crazy thing we're doing for NWTF is this big collab. So it's us, Pacific Calls, and Boss Shot Shells. We all did a collab. So we have a hat that's a limited edition hat. There's only 50 of them in the world.
Oh wow.
You know, big fancy thing.
Yeah.
There's 50 hats, and then Boss printed limited edition run of turkey loads that have our logos on them, their logo, and Pacific Calls logo. And then we have Nothing Fancy branded turkey calls, all in one box. Super nice, fancy box. Like think about like, I remember when I was playing basketball, I bought these super nice Kobe's that had like. It was a super hardy cardboard box with like a nice metallic finish on it. And then it has the magnetic latches and everything. It's like a collectible box. So it's in a really nice box, foam inserts, everything. So you get the hat, a money bag, the shells, and the turkey call. And there's only going to be 50 of those boxes there at the show. So I feel like that's a one way. Like also like my customers are definitely not always the same as Boss. Sure. But there's some cross-pollination there. So I feel like this is one way. It's like, oh, I'm a turkey hunter. This is a cool hat. That's a cool call. I've never had these shells before, but who cares? Let's give them a shot. Or any of those 3 products, that same conversation happens and they just rotate.
Yeah, that's. It sounds like a pretty cool pack. I got a rabid turkey hunter in my family, and my brother is that way. Like I like to hunt turkeys, but by the time I get done with duck season, I'm like, oh, all right, man, like. Let's go fish, and I'll try to shoot a long beard, but I really don't. I could take it or leave it, to be honest with you. But my brother is like, he's like abandoning his family. He's like a duck hunter. Like he abandons his family during the spring. He's just like, yo, whatever, figure it out on your own. You know, I'm trying to kill a turkey, so he's been going after that. But I mean, that sounds like a pretty awesome present for somebody like that. You know?
Yeah, it's a cool little gift, and I guess like the availability of it, like there's only 50 boxes. The first like limited run thing we've ever done, so we'll see how it goes. But
I know I'm always on the lookout for like, oh hey, I know nobody has that like crazy hoodie like or t-shirt, you know. Yep. So always nice to have something that's limited in scale. So
for sure,
that's pretty cool. So National Wild Turkey Federation. What any other cool places you guys are going to be at?
Yeah, we're going to be at a couple concerts this summer. The Tailgate and Tall Boys concert series. We'll be at 2 of those. We're going to go to Delta Waterfowl. Probably do another collab there of some sorts. We do the Maryland Waterfowl Expo every year, and I'm looking to add some more. This this summer or this. I know Squad Fest is one a lot of people go to. There's a bunch that we'll be looking to go to. I just built this big old booth. We bought like 30 sheets of plywood, 30 pieces of trim pine, and I had a couple buddies. I had 3 buddies help me build it. Various weekends, they had various tasks. My one buddy's a carpenter. He helped me build the main boxes, cut the shelves. My other buddy did the cabinets in his house, so he helped me do all the A-framing and some of the routing and stuff like that. So all my high school crew, my buddies, came and helped me up, and we built the whole thing. I think it's 16 feet wide by 8 feet tall, and it comes in. I did it in squares. Wow. Yeah. So after doing trade shows for so much, it's like, what are the 2 things you care about? It's like, 1, I don't want to lift stuff. I want to have it set up. Well, there's 3 things, I guess. Yeah. I want it. I don't want to lift it. I want it on wheels. You want it packed already. So like you open that sucker and it's ready to sell.
You're here. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's done. So that's kind of the one thing I thought about. So it's 8 boxes, 4 bottoms, 4 tops. They're all 4 feet by 4 feet and 24 inches deep. So 8 feet tall is like, I feel like that's a good height. Most buildings, they let you have that height. 16 feet wide. If we want to do a 20 by 20, we can. If we want to do a 20 by 30, I can spin them around, do them a separate way. And then the good part about having them all separate is like, hey, Abe, can you do a show for us? Yeah, no problem. Just send me some stuff. So I ship you the 2 boxes, and they're alrery full of hats and everything, and you just display them, slap a new label back on it, and they come back our way.
Put it back in the mail. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's some, some of the cool stuff that it's cool building it myself. It was a pain in the butt, but I think it's going to pay out big time for us. It's not
especially once you get
done.
Yeah, efficiency is what it is, right? Because I mean, a lot of those places you're walking in, it's not like you're pulling up to the front door and dropping your stuff off, and you're like, okay, I've got about a 30-mile, like a 2-mile walk in to a trade show, to try to get a booth set up. So, like you said, anything you can minimize trips or carrying. I did a lot when I was. It's always a lot.
Yeah, it's so much. And the crazy thing they're doing now to even make it worse is, so at ICAST this past year, we were there, and I had a wagon, and we also had like a little dolly. I'm pulling in with the wagon. Excuse me, sir. We are just letting people know next year you cannot use any personal moving devices. It's like, oh, what do you mean? Like, he's like, that wagon, you can't use anything with wheels next year. We're just letting people know. I'm like, so what do we do? It's like, oh, you have to pay the union. The union's $80 an hour. So like I can carry a box in, but I can't put a box on a wagon and pull it in. For ICAST next year,
they're gonna wreck that shit.
So
people are just gonna go, I'm not going. Like,
trade shows have already been kind of on the downfall. Like I don't think they're going anywhere.
Sure.
I'm very happy to always go to trade shows, and I always do well at trade shows. But I think businesses are trying to decide, it's like, do I want to spend money to then have people want to buy things at a discount when in reality I can be selling it full price, not paying $1 going.
Yeah, exactly.
So like that's
and I could get my name out with social media more effectively for less money to get. Yeah, so it's like we're coming here as a way to kind of bring the industry together. So, I mean,
and I think that's where the real benefit is. Kind of like the same thing we just talked about. I'll never not go to certain trade shows. I feel like that's always just like a tradition that you can't.
you got to.
Last year was the first year I didn't go to the Bassmaster Classic. I'm not going again this year, and that's upsetting. I love that trade show. That's one where if there's anything fishing related, those people are there to buy, and there are a lot of them.
Yeah,
at that show.
So you more of a fisherman than a hunter, or do you kind of fancy yourself? What do you call yourself? A hunter or a duck hunter, or are you a fisherman?
It's weird, right? So the hard question to that is, I can duck hunt. The answer to that is I can duck hunt 3 months out of the year, and I can fish all 12.
Yeah,
from ice fishing to normal fishing to whatever. So I definitely spend more of my time fishing. But when it's duck season, like, I don't touch a rod.
Yeah.
So like that's, I feel like
I'm with you.
Which one do I have more money into? Probably fishing. And I guess the real decision of what defines me is, if I were to buy a boat, it would be a duck boat, but it would have an outboard. So because I'm going to use it more fishing. So when I'm buying a boat, I'm thinking, more fish. Can I fish out of it, and can I also hold some decoys?
Yeah.
So I guess that would be my.
I got
real
to have
answer.
the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a 1860 Go Devil that has a polling platform and a casting platform on it, and it has a trolling motor. So, and it's surface drive, so I can go wherever I want to go to duck hunt, and I can also go fishing out of it. So, I call it my redneck skiff. So it's just it's a great little boat that's unfortunately
the crazy
broken
thing,
constantly.
Oh my gosh, I had a Go Devil longtail for a year and a half, and they're so loud. Like I can't go fishing in that around here. I feel like an idiot.
Oh my!
It's just like,
I got an exhaust, a stage 2 kit on my motor, so it's just loud and
It's like driving.
I try not to start it in my neighborhood as much as possible, but every now and then you're just like, all right, well,
gotta test it.
What time is it?
That would say one big difference too. And you mentioned like your duck season ends, and you guys, when's your turkey season start?
April.
So like we get a little bit more time. So our duck season, I would say, ends January 10th, and our turkey doesn't end till May 1st. So in between there, like I got nothing to be doing other than fishing.
Yeah.
It's like the gaps are a little bit larger up here in between seasons. And there's not as many outdoorsmen in New York. I would say that everyone who is any involved in the outdoors, I think we get a poor talking about when people are like, oh, New York, like you never think hunter, you never think anyone, but like with the Adirondack Mountains,
New York City.
Yeah, exactly. With the New York, with the Adirondack Mountains and the Adirondack Park. The Adirondack Park is you can fit every national park inside of the Adirondack Park in New York State.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, like, that's one thing I'm sure a lot of people don't know. It's 6.8 million acres of public and private land, half of which is private, half of which is public.
Yeah.
So, like, there's so much to be doing and exploring around here. But there's not a lot of people who hunt. So that's the best of both worlds is you get all of this great land. And it's not like Texas where you go like to a public area near Dallas and it's like you better be there 5 hours and you better be sleeping at the boat ramp. I brag to all my Texas buddies. It's like, oh, you guys fight for spots. I've never once had to gotten to my spot and had someone in it.
Oh wow!
Up in New York, so that's what I like about it up here. The hunting is great. The fishing's great. We just don't get bigger deer, but not as big bass. That would be my one complaint.
Yeah. It's a living down here. It's like the last couple of years have been a rough duck season. We had a pretty good one down here on the coast last year. Couple years before that, it's been pretty good, but this year was just brutal for everybody this far south because
it just never got cold.
No, like
we got lucky here. They sat. I didn't get a full season, so I moved from Texas mid-October. So I missed the start of New York, and then I missed the start of Texas. So I kind of double dipped and missed both. But I got late season New York, which is my favorite because early season's mainly wood ducks. Like you bury yourself in a swamp, no decoys sitting there, load them up on wood ducks. Late season, that's when we started to get some cool divers, buffleheads, bluebills, pintails, and me and my buddies, we killed the first pintail I've ever seen in New York. And we happened to kill a flock of 5.
Oh, wow.
There was like 9 of us. So that was unreal. Like that's the dog retrieved it, brought it in, and I was just like, pintail! And everybody got out of it. Started hugging.
Yeah.
Like it was a big
No, I mean, it's like if we kill a mallard down here on the coast, it's the same way. It's like, oh my God, it's a mallard.
We get a lot of black ducks up here, which are cool. Like compared to the rest of the country, like there's not that many of those. Blue wings, green wings. I've seen blue wings, green wings, and like we get some ringnecks too.
Yeah.
But this year was a good year for me just because I had a good group of friends that invited me on a bunch of hunts because I didn't have time to scout because like I said, I had just moved back during duck season. So they let me on board with a bunch. I'd toss some ammunition or whatever it is just to kind of give thanks.
That's the way to do it, you know.
It's one thing, man. I feel
barter
like
your way in. I brought a boat down here, and I was like, "Hey, I got a boat.
Yeah,
who wants a new hunting buddy?" You know?
Yeah, I feel like that's the hard part, man. Is like when you take a lot of guys hunting, and it's like no gas money gets tossed. You know, it's like, oh, let me buy your Bang energy drink, like whatever it is.
Yeah,
things like that. And I'm always one to over exaggerate just to try to get not just to try to get an invite back to be like, hey, I'm showing you appreciation of how much I know this means to me. I just want to let you know.
Yeah, exactly. You can get anything off the top rack at Buc-ee's.
Yeah.
You know, like, just pick one of those. You can get anything you want. Buc-ee's is kind of pissing me off.
I miss
because
Buc-ee's.
they have now started to only make breakfast at 4:30 in the morning. So a lot of times I'm coming through there and I'm like, I would like to get something at 3:00 in the morning when I'm coming through there, or 2 in the morning.
You gotta have the end of the midnight shift.
I need
breakfast is a little cold. That's better than no breakfast.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, all right, well, so that some spots I go to, I can get there at 4. I can make the 4:30 work, but
that ain't right.
I mean, we're public land hunters, so it's just
that ain't right.
No, it ain't right. I don't understand what they're doing. It's
Pussies fix it.
We got to write a letter here or something.
Yeah.
Somebody would need a petition, something going on. I mean, even if it's a limited breakfast, I ain't asking you to chop brisket on the board.
3 months of the year. That's all we're asking for.
Just during duck season. That's it. Yeah. I will tell you, I had a pretty cool experience at Buc-ee's at like 2:00 in the morning. It's just always a weird. Whenever I'm in a gas station at that time in the morning, it's always a weird thing because you're just like, oh, it's tomorrow for me. It is still today for you.
Are you going to bed or are you just getting up?
Oh yeah. Which direction are you going? You look like you're going the other way. But I was at a Buc-ee's getting some boudin kolaches, and this lady is heating them up in the microwave. Dude behind the brisket thing. It's like 2:00 in the morning. There's nobody in there. It's me and them, and this motherfucker's just hot brisket on the board, screaming it like. And she looks at me, and I look at her, and she's like, "I fucking hate that guy. He does this all the time. Like, there's 30 people in here. He's like, well, nobody. Like, I get it that we're supposed to say it, but like, do you have to scream this at 2:00 in the morning?" And like, she just connected with me on this hatred of this guy, and he kind of looks over there, and she's just like, "Oh, here's your kolache, sir."
I think I'm a fan of the move. You got to respect the brisket. If you show any disrespect to the brisket when it's hitting the board,
man, but
you think just because that brisket happened to get pulled out at 2 a.m., it deserves less?
It deserves any less fanfare than the 3 p.m. brisket hitting the table,
Yeah.
No, I mean, it definitely... But it was enough of that for her. She was like, I'm done here. Like, I'm so tired of this.
Yeah, I hear him in my sleep.
Oh, my God. It was just one of those. I walked back out of the truck. I'm like, really you won't believe what happened just now. Everybody got a kick out of that. So,
whenever anyone came to visit me, I would bring them to Buc-ee's. Like, that was like the one thing I did. Yeah. Just because we don't have any near me.
This is cool.
And like every time they walk in, I'm like, huh? What do you think? We think pretty cool, right?
Pretty cool gas station.
Look at how many popcorns they have. Look at that. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. So do you have Sheetz and Wawa up there, right?
So
is Wawa? I know is maybe Philadelphia.
Yeah. So like when I go to Maryland, because that's where the Nothing Fancy headquarters is, they have Wawa down there. Those are awesome. Big fan of Wawas. Sheetz, I don't know where to put on my list. I think I like the branding of it. Like the outside looks cool. Like I definitely want to go in there. But if I'm going between a Wawa or a 7-Eleven or Sheetz, I still think I'm going either Wawa or 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
The big one we have up here in New York is Stewart's.
Okay.
So it's literally upstate New York and a little bit of, I think it goes a little bit west, like Buffalo to here. Crazy good ice cream. Like they buy milk from all local farmers. Like it's that kind of thing.
Okay.
I used to sell beer before I sold fishing rods.
No shit.
So sold a lot of beer.
Talk to our boy Austin. He's in the beer business.
Yeah, sold a lot of
Austin's
beer
in the booze business.
And the big crazy thing about Stewart's is like they're a cash business. Like when they put up new buildings, they pay cash. When they buy their beer for all whatever amount, 365 locations, all cash. Like they are just rolling in it. I don't know, like it's just you walk in and it's like that local gas station that feels like it's part of your high school. Like it's like a weird little niche family thing. It's like you don't walk in, it's like, oh, this is a chain gas station. It's like you walk in, it's like whoever behind the counter, I could totally have a conversation with them and tell them where I live kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's all about that customer service,
Yeah.
That was like Buc-ee's was great for because everybody was super cool and nice and it was clean and you could buy a billion tchotchkes. So it's the same thing, I'm sure. Just a solid gas. You got to have a good gas station, though. That's
it's huge. Nothing worse than like you have your morning hunt drive and like it's like I know there's nothing good on the way, so I got to stock up the night before. It's not as fun.
Yeah, no, I always like the little stop because it's like, all right, I get up, get going,
my little treat.
Yeah, get a little treat. Yeah. Listen to Joe Rogan on the phone for a while, a
little snacky,
have a snack,
piece of meat, and 300 milligrams caffeine.
Yeah, exactly. See how much of that you can get into your body at one sitting. So, yeah, I'm gonna miss duck season, but I'm glad to get some solid sleep through the evening.
Yeah. So
not going to bed at 7 o'clock on a Friday. Yeah, a lot. Yeah. So my wife and I moved down to the coast here about a year and a half ago, and just started hunting. I mean, obviously I hunted before, but started hunting a lot down here for ducks, and then just redfish and flounder and
fly or conventional.
I do a little bit of both, as you can see. That there's fly rods there, but I do have a. I used to fly fish a lot when I was up in Dallas, and then got down here and was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Kind of just let's start with live bait and work our way backwards from there. And so I'm going to try to do a little bit more fly fishing this year for redfish than I have in the past. And but it's a lot of fun. I have a blast doing it. It's like today was like 70 degrees. Yeah. And sunny and just no wind. I was like, this is a beautiful day to be on the water.
So and that's my problem is like, hey, do you want a free elk trip or do you want a free trip of 5 days on the coast throwing flies at reds? It's like, a lot of work. The other, I can sit, have a beer, and catch some fish. It's it's such a hard...
Buc-ee's and beer.
Yep.
Not, I guess you would technically do that with elk, but that's a lot more money because, way more expensive to get that experience shooting an elk than it is to go up to Colorado and try to shoot one over the counter.
Yeah, but I was very upset. I never got to make the trip down to Galveston. Heard a lot of good things, and I was in Fort Worth, and I just never made. I have like a F-150 with a camper shell, and I had it all with the deck system. Had my camping all set up, and I never made it down.
It's fun, man. If you get over this way again, you'll have to come down and hang out. We'll go out on the coast. I've got a bay boat as well, so we'll go fish the jetties
sweet.
And catch the bull red run if you come in the summertime sometime.
Dang.
That's a lot of fun. Catching sharks, we caught a bunch of those this year. So I enjoy it. I love freshwater fishing. I'm a big fan of sand bass or white bass and crappie were my two favorite. Like those are my pursuits. Catching a big ass bass is always fun. But I'd love those winter runs. Like everybody's like right now in the creeks catching sand bass up north, and crappie will be soon. So I got it. That's the one thing. I'm close to some freshwater lakes here, so I want to try to check some out and see what that looks like. But I mean, I just can't. The addiction to redfish to me, like catching a big redfish like that, is just too much.
Yeah, it's tough. I've never had like the option of both. The weird thing we get is in my town, probably 10 minutes away in Troy, New York, it's the first dam of the Hudson River. So this river goes from basically Canada all the way down to New York City. So we're in my town is the first dam, about 3.5, 4 hours north of New York City. So the striper come all the way up to there. 4 hours up the river by car. Yeah. The stripers come all the way up there. So I get a little bit of a striper run, which is cool because I'm 4 hours from the ocean. Yeah. And we get stripers. So that's cool. But that's, as growing up, that's about as much as like saltwater fish until we went, like, I go to Myrtle Beach with my family when I was a kid, and we'd go on like the big party boats. Yeah.
Drop shot and like dropping over the side and catching snapper or whatever.
Yep. So like we've done that, and then when I started working for Douglas Rods, that's when I got the opportunity to go to like Charleston, Merle's Inlet, and do some all types
serious
of different
fishing.
Charters.
Yeah. It's I enjoy it a lot. It's hard. I'm with you, man. You're like, man, I fish outside of duck season all the time, and I work from home, thankfully, so it's even I'm on the water here in Galveston too, so it's just like, all right, I'm gonna wake up this morning at 6 a.m. and go run out for 4 hours and then come home and work, so it makes it convenient to be able to go and do that very frequently.
I think that's kind of why a lot of people duck hunter heavy because they think about it like you think about it for 9 months out of the year, and then you get to do it for 3. So I think if roles were swapped, I think fishing would be the one everybody fiends for, and duck hunting would be the fishing. I think that's really all it comes down to is like the availability of time to do said activity.
I don't know if I would like that. Seems like a straight up like. Could you imagine if that was what hell was like ducks all the time, like ducks 12 months a year, and then fishing for 3 months, and you're just like, this is stupid. Like, why am I duck hunting in July? This is stupid. You know, like why is this
hunting in a bathing suit, no camo? You don't need waders. You just want to be in the water.
You just like land in hell, and they're like, "Oh, this looks pretty similar." You're like, "Yeah, it's just pretty much the same, except for duck season is all year." And
here's your firearm.
and fishing can only occur in 3 months. You're like, "What the?"
And it's dead of winter.
Oh, and you still have to work. You're like, "Damn it! This is the worst."
Yeah, not a good trade.
Yeah. So I'm with you. Fishing for me is I just love it. I haven't and I've got this like weird like I want to go fish so bad, but like it's windy, of course, this time of the year down here. Yeah. So it's either windy or cold, and I'm just like, man, I've been cold for 3 months. I can wait, 3 weeks, and it'll be warm down here again. You know, so we'll see what this spring's going to be like. Hopefully, it's wet. We've got we need rain so bad down here. It's not even funny.
We've been full of water. It's been crazy.
Yeah,
so much, and it's been so warm.
Yeah,
we had a cold snap. I got on the ice one day, and that was it. And it warmed right back up. So no ice fishing this year for basically everybody. Yeah,
ice fishing seems like one of those things that's like a hard thing to get into.
I would say
if you don't know how to deal with it.
It's very, very similar to duck hunting. It's almost the same. It's like access. Is it safe?
Yeah.
And where do I go? Like, where do I go? What do I need? Because there's a ton of gear involved, from keeping warm to actual fishing gear. And then access is always a big thing. It's like, and that's another thing is like, I don't want to do that the first time by myself. I have no idea if the ice is safe.
Yeah, what am I going to do? Like, I don't care all of you are driving on the ice. I'm not driving on the ice. Like, get out of here.
I'm going to pick the one spot where I'm going to go right through. But I would say as far as getting into that, it's very similar to duck hunting. And taking people fishing for their first time so many times, I like to take them ice fishing first before anything else. Reason being is like I feel like the hardest thing for most people to get down, like you can cast for them, but they're never going to catch their own fish if they don't know how to set the hook.
Yeah.
So ice fishing is really easy because you're just holding a little rod, and it's just straight down a hole, and you're just looking at the rod the entire time. It's like you're going to see it go boink. It's like, well, just go like that, set the hook hard, lift up, and then they kind of get that motion down, and they get better and more efficient all winter. And then when spring comes, they're like ready to set.
Yeah, you're like you got the same motion. Yeah, yeah. I take my nieces and nephews out, and every time we go out, I'm just like, okay, you don't touch a rod until you're on the front of the boat because you are a wild animal. You have an 8-foot stick with a sharp hooks hanging off of it. Like, calm down. Like, quit ripping things around.
Everybody gets weightless Texas rigged Senkos.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're gonna be real gentle here. Yep. And then once again, it's just like, oh, there was like your bobber goes underneath, and you're like, okay, like lift up, and they're just like, no, that's not the motion. Like technically, you lift it up, but not
with some pizzazz. Lift up with pizzazz.
You got it. There's a certain motion you got to get used to. So, I would think just kind of focusing on that is kind of cool. But I feel like as soon as I would like ice fishing, kind of freaks me out. I mean, I'm from Texas, so ice is like what? Like
I was trying to get Jordan up here. We had planned on him coming up a weekend, but like I said, I just never had the ice. And honestly, this weekend would probably be the only chance, and we're both going to be heading down to NWTF. So it's an awesome experience. It's a ton of fun. It's very lax. Very lax.
Sitting in a hut drinking beer.
Sitting in a hut drinking beer, talking to friends, listening to music. You can do whatever you want. You don't got to be quiet because the ice is there. And if you get on them, you can fill up 3, 4, 5 gallon pails of crappie and bluegills and perch and whatever you want. And the tip ups are fun. So when you're looking around, you see flag and everybody runs to it. Yeah, it's tons of fun. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like one of those things that I would be like, if it was like, all right, let's go do this, like I would enjoy it, but I would be extremely freaked out on the ice, just like
it gets nerve wracking and like
how thick is this?
So surprisingly, you only need, for a person, you only need 2 inches. I don't go out until there's 4.
Yeah.
If there's 3.5, I still go out. But I look for 4. 5 is a snowmobile. 6 is a side-by-side. 7 is where you're getting to like a larger side-by-side. Your 8 to 9 is like a small car. 10 to 11 is like a Ford Ranger. And then your 13 to 14 is a full-size pickup. Like, that's how crazy exponentially it goes.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I listen to that Meat Eater, like, what is it, the stories, campfire stories or whatever it is about those dudes who, like, went in and everybody's fine, but it's still like, oh my God.
It's scary.
I mean, it's just like anything else. You know?
It can be nerve-wracking. I forgot what else I was going to say. Oh, the other crazy, just ice in general. Ice can form up in different ways. So the thing that freaks a lot of people out is there's like cloudy ice and there's clear ice.
Okay.
So you think like if it's cloudy, you can't see the water. You feel a little bit safer because you can't see through it. But in reality, the clearer the ice, the stronger it is. Think about if you glued something and there's a bunch of air bubble gaps or sawdust or whatever it is, it won't bond properly. But if it's crystal clear and you can't see through it and there's no pockets, that's when it's its strongest bond. So like you get 4 inches of crystal clear ice, like if I were to write a note and stick it to the bottom of the ice, you'd read it clear as day. Yeah. And like that's the strongest ice, but when the water's on it, it doesn't even look like there's ice. Because like when you put an ice cube in your water and it's really clear, like that's what it looks like you're standing
looks like you're walking on water.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, God.
And when it's really cold, the ice cracks all day long because it's continuously freezing. Yeah. So like think about like when you put a water in your ice cube, makes all that noise. Well, the ice is doing that all day long, and it'll ting, 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 ting. You'll hear it hit shore and bounce off a bunch of stuff. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I was watching a TikTok video. Some chick, like her husband was filming her cutting a hole in the ice.
Yeah,
and it just cracked. Like, I mean,
it happens all the time. Like, and everyone's like, ah!
"Oh God!"
But everybody usually, I've never had it crack and fallen in or had anything happen, but it's just a stress crack. Like you got to think about how much pressure there is from the edges of everything just getting pushed in, and you give it a little bit of relief, and it's just ice just sighs.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things that's. Ice fishing seems like I would have a blast doing it, but it's like, boy, it just it's one of those weird things that boggles my brain because I'm from Texas. So it was hoodie weather for me at 70 degrees, like 68. I was like, I need a hoodie on. It's a little chilly. You're like 68. It's summertime. You know,
I've lost a little bit of it already. Just 1 year in Texas, like now when it's like low 30s, I'm cold. I'm
like,
freezing.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, in reality, like for me, that's like sweatshirt weather here.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, no, I lose it, and just even from the guys because all the other guys are up in Dallas, and so they, you know, they're my buddy Austin was down here this weekend for Mardi Gras. Oh, he was like, it's 31 degrees in Dallas right now. It's like it's sun shining and 64 right now, you know, and that's 4 hours away. So yeah, it's crazy. So, but what a ice fishing, man. I've got it. That's one of those things I got to check off the list one of these days. But it's so difficult. If we get
solid ice next year, I would happily host. My family has a lake house.
Okay,
so it's nice because you get introduced to the cold weather ice fishing, but you have easy access to bathrooms, heat, and whatever. So you don't have to worry about like the normal stuff of driving your car 30 minutes, getting out in the ice, not knowing like what's next. You get there, you have a couple drinks, you don't got to drive anywhere, you have a hot room, food, everything's there for you, so there's nothing to stress about.
That sounds horrible, man. I'll tell you, that sounds just absolutely terrible. Like, come to New York, get some hot food, and hang out and go ice fishing.
Yeah, that would suck.
We've got the reverse of that down here. You come down here, there's no ice, but there's hot food and there's cold food as well. And then we'll get some good Mexican food. You get that again.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we actually just had tacos tonight. No, I miss like Chimmy's in Fort Worth and Joe T. Garcia's and all that. It's good. It's just that and you. So like, what kind of barbecue do you guys get up there in New York? So
is it like?
There are places I would say that compare to like good places down there.
Yeah.
There's just not. There's no culture around it. Like everybody cares. Like, oh, where'd you get that barbecue? Like, oh, this is not as good here. Like around here, it's like, oh, they have good barbecue, and like you have 3 or 4 places you go to. But I probably ate at 5 or 6 places. Can't remember any of the names down there. There was one near Cowboy Stadium that I remember being very, very good, very smoky.
Okay.
It was in Arlington. That I was like, wow, this is a place that had. Yeah, it is hard 8.
Yeah.
That was one place that stood out to me above like the rest. Where around here, like I don't think I'll find anything that like stands out to me like, oh wow, like I will only eat barbecue from this place.
Is it more of like a North Carolina type style, like sauce and vinegary based, or is it more kind of salt and pepper?
I would say it depends on what it is. So, like the ribs are up here are very salty, not as saucy.
Okay. Yeah.
But when we do chicken wings, very saucy. When we do like the jalapeno, like there's usually like jalapeno poppers. Those aren't as saucy as down there.
Okay. Yeah.
It kind of goes meat by meat and place by place because I don't know. Yeah, I'm not a barbecue
every place
expert.
is different. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things as a Texan. You're like, okay, I know barbecue and I know Mexican food.
The one thing you guys Texas doesn't have that I really missed is I couldn't find an Italian place for the life of me. Like a really good Italian.
Yeah, not like what you're accustomed to up there.
Yeah.
It's just so different. I mean, it's just the same reason that you can't like get good Mexican food up there. There's like, it's not. So it's just not the same.
The weird little thing about the Mexican food up here is we have a racetrack in Saratoga. So there's tons of Mexicans there that do like migrant work throughout the summers. And a lot of them get their visas or whatever and stay, and they open restaurants. So there's actually a large amount of super authentic Mexican food in Saratoga.
I'm a degenerate gambler. I've watched many a horse racing at Saratoga. So it's
I have to come up. They have the Travers this year, and what's the other race they have up here this year now? It's usually in Philly.
Oh,
or outside of Philly. No, it's on Long Island. It's one of the Triple Crown races.
It's not. So you got Belmont.
It's Belmont.
Kentucky Derby, and then you have
Travers.
It's not Belmont. It's what is the third one?
Isn't it Travers?
If only there was a device.
Yeah, I think it's Travers, Belmont, and Kentucky Derby are the 3 for the Triple Crown. And 2 of them this year are going to be at the Saratoga racetrack because Belmont is getting a revamp on their racetrack.
Preakness.
The Preakness.
Wait,
where's the Preakness?
That was the one that's in Philly, and near Philadelphia.
Is that one part of the Triple Crown?
So, what is the order of the Triple Crown races? The Triple Crown begins with the Kentucky Derby, followed by the Preakness Stakes, and then Belmont.
Okay. I guess, why did I think they were at Saratoga?
They move so at Pimlico. Yeah, but Saratoga's a huge racetrack. That's like one of the big.
It's so much fun.
Like 4 or 5 in the country,
That whole town is horse racing based, and throughout the summer, like think about like what a college town is, like during college. Like that's what Saratoga is, but for adults during the summertime.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. I had dated a girl that her family was from the East Coast. My wife, her family's from the East Coast now. Mm-hmm. So I've been a handful of times to mainly Pennsylvania,
gotcha.
but I've been to New York. I travel up there a little bit for work. But yeah, you're right. An Italian restaurant, like going up there, you're just not getting this. No,
couldn't find.
I mean, there's some good ones, but
yeah.
I mean, if anybody's like Olive Garden, I'm going to hit you in the head because that's not good.
Yeah,
it's not
like
good.
all the Italian places here are like, oh, my mom or my grandma was like from.
Yeah, like cross the boat, like you're like, oh,
I'm just like, they did a good job crossing because thank God they came over here because this place is amazing.
It's the best. Yeah, we've got, down here we've kind of on the search for good Italian restaurants, and it's like, all right, well, this one's not bad.
Yeah,
but it's just kind of.
Now,
still.
When you do here's a real good question. When you do your restaurant choices, are you going to your restaurant because you enjoy the restaurant, like, and you change your meals when you go to your favorite restaurant, or do you go to a restaurant for your favorite meal?
I'd hate to say a little bit of both, but it depends on the restaurant, because some restaurant I'm like, okay, I know if I go to this place, it's like I'm getting that. But we've got a new restaurant right now that's kind of our top, our favorite. It's a pretty small menu, so I like. I've had about.
I feel like those are okay. Like that's a
and,
convenient time to go to. Like it's a convenient place, right? Nice little hangout, have some drinks and a meal.
And I can kind of this place I've like moved around on the menu a bunch, and I'm like, okay, that's. I feel like that's when you kind of move into the top stratosphere of restaurants, is when you can go.
Yeah,
okay,
I feel like
I can go here.
It surpasses the name of a restaurant. It becomes a hangout or something like that.
You put your finger down and you're like, okay, I'm gonna get a place. We've got so Dallas Cowboys fans, obviously. So move down here. It's hard if the Texans are on at the same time, then the Cowboys are blacked out. So. I was like, I don't really want to buy the Sunday ticket because I'm not going to watch it because I'm going to be duck hunting. Yeah. So we found a bar down here, and they are just like this. It's this like shitty little Irish pub that has the NFL Sunday ticket. They smoking inside, dark, dingy place. Yes. They have like free hot dogs. Like free nacho, like a free hot dog or nacho bar almost every single Sunday.
Love it.
And like one week it was like Frito pie bar, and then they have this like stellar lineup of sandwiches. So it's like, okay, I'm going to come in here, get a hot dog or so, and then I'll crush a sandwich, have some beers, and it's dirt cheap and just incredible. Everybody's there to watch football because they can't watch the game at their house, and so. Everybody's pretty cool because you're like obviously an invested fan. So you've got people who are like, somebody's watching the Steelers down here, and you're like Cowboys here, and somebody's like watching the Jets, and you're like, Jesus Christ, what do you? Yeah. Like you left, you can fucking leave that team, dude. You don't have to. It's cool.
Your season.
If you're not in New York, you don't have to root for the Jets, bro.
Yeah. Your season ended in the third snap of this season.
So.
Yeah, I love little bars like that. Nice little place to hang out. Don't have to listen to crazy loud music. Chill out, have a couple beers, and talk and watch football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we found there's this place that we've driven past a bunch down here called like Sandy's, and it's just I've like never seen it open when I go past. And like the other night we were leaving dinner and drove past, and I was like, oh my god, like. Me and my wife whipped in there. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, Sandy's is open. We have to come in here. She's like, okay. So we walked in there, like opened the door, and it was just like, oh my God, this is the greatest place ever. Just a shithole dive bar. Just the best.
Love it.
Smoking in there. Everybody's smoking. There's like two old dudes watching a volume up murder show on ABC, which you're just like, okay, these people are watching TV in a bar with the sound of the TV up over the music. This place is awesome. This has got good bones here.
Dang.
Oh, it was classic. So yeah, those joints are always the best. So
in Galveston, do you guys have like beach bars, and not by like bars at the beach, but like somewhere similar dive style, but you sit outside, like listen to the ocean kind of thing?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Those are nice.
Yeah, there's a ton of that stuff. We've got there's a pretty cool bar that sits out on a big fishing pier that goes out into the into the ocean, and they put a bar on top of it, so you can kind of like you walk in and you can go inside and upstairs to the bar, or you can like pay and go out on the fishing pier. So the bar overlooks the fishing pier.
Yep.
So you go there, and like I said, Austin, one of the hosts, he's in the Boozmas. He works for a beer company called Montucky Cold Snacks, and they sell that in there. And so that's where he was like, hey, that bar has got Montucky in it, like. Take your dumb ass over there and go drink beer so that they'll keep buying it from us. So I'm like, all right. So we go over there all the time and get some beers and then just watch people fish. And it is just, there's been many a day you're just like, I'm hammered, like just watching people fish because people were catching fish, and you're just like, oh my God, like we've got to get out of here.
People watching on the beach at the beach bars like all time.
Because you've got the beach down both sides and the pier, so you can go either way.
That's prime.
Yeah, there's a bunch of places like that. There's a bunch of places you can go with a boat, which is always fun to do. Like go to a bar and pull up in the boat. Yeah,
how do you make a bar cooler? Pull up in a boat.
Yeah, pull up in a boat. Yeah, you'll have to come down, man. Come down sometime and come down if you want to come down in the heat. We'll go out and catch fish offshore if the wind's down. I don't have a big offshore boat, but I've got, if the wind's laid down, I can run out, couple mile, 30, 40 miles, and we can get into some snapper.
Awesome.
So that would be neat, or just catching big ass redfish.
Either way.
So do you like to catch things on the fly as well? Are you a fly fisherman?
I think I'm a big component of like doing the funnest version of whatever it is for that fish. So like I feel like fly fishing for reds when they're like tailing or doing something in Charleston's kind of where I get to this, like when they're crabbing or just really shallow. Like I think that's like the best thing to do for redfish. It's like sight fishing them. So like that's why I like doing flies for them mainly. And I don't get a lot of time to do it, so when I do it, I try to do it like what I consider to be the best way, the most fun way.
Yeah, exactly.
Does that make sense?
Oh no, yeah. I mean, if like for me, it's like I love to catch flounder, and so I just took on like, okay, let's try to go out and catch flounder. I was like, well, there's another way to do this. It is to rig your boat up with lights and go stab him in the head with
I'd love
a
to do
pitchfork.
that. Yeah.
So we got that. I got the boat rigged up to go do that now, and so and that was on a Tuesday night. Like my wife is like, "Are you coming home? Like, what are you like?" I was like, "Oh shit, it's 3:00 in the morning." And we've been out since 9, and we're just like, oh, it's Tuesday, and we're just catching. It gets so addicting if it's pretty good, because you're just like stabbing fish, and you go a little while, you won't see them, but you're constantly searching and looking for them.
Yeah,
and
that's got to be,
it's a lot of fun. Flounder gigging was a lot of fun. We started off with trying to like use just like with duck hunting, right? You start off with nothing and a shotgun and like a thing of Academy decoys, and you walk out, and then then it just gets worse. Now we need a kayak, and now we need canoes, and now we need a boat. Same thing with that, because you're like, okay, we started with just deer feeder batteries plugged into some like little homemade PVC gig lights. We walk around and do it. We're like, all right, I'm not able to cover much ground walking. I need to be on a boat where I can. So we pull the boat and go through it that way, and it's come do that. That's a lot of fun. I
missed out on a lot of things in Texas. Like I should have got there the day and just started running around doing things, and I kind of waited and didn't have. I'll get back down there.
The Hella Dry boys and you down here, and we'll just do that. That could be fun. We'll just go flounder gig, and that can happen with a duck hunt too, because for like early teal, October, they start to those fish start to run, and if you get in the right spot, you can just be like, all right, we're done here. They stack up, and you can stab them in the head pretty quick. So,
dang,
yeah, that'd be a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, that seems like a lot of fun.
Well, where can people find like the hats and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So nothingfancyco.com. You just type it into Google, it's going to pop right up. You type in Hardy Hats, whatever you're going to type in. We'll show up on everything you can. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. TikTok needs some help. Been shadow banned. I don't know what the hell's going on there, but it feels like it's been an uphill battle.
I forgot. I posted a gun on there, and they were like, "You're fucking dead." Yeah.
Terrorist.
Yeah, terrorist. I was like, it banned it for community. I was like, what? It took me a while to realize. I was like, what? It's just a picture of a gun. Like, it's not even, nobody's even holding it. Like, it's just sitting there. And they were like, oh, I challenged it. They're like, sir, this has a gun in it. And I'm like, okay. Like,
you're a gun.
Yeah, you're a gun. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, and then we also have our podcast too, which is on every platform for the Nothing Fancy podcast. But that's new, so bear with us. But yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
Dude, thanks for having me. This has been a blast. It's been a while since I've hopped on a pod with some other people that I haven't met before, which is always fun.
Yeah, it's neat. It was great to talk to you.
Yeah.
We got this one. We got the first one checked off. Now we'll just hopefully we can coordinate something with you guys and Jordan and Jason, and get down here and try to
definitely
catch some fish and stab some flounder in the head.
That would be amazing.
We have hot food in the bed here.
You gotta get up here and stand on the ice.
I would love to come do that. Yeah, so we need to do that. So I want to check that box off, because I love to catch crappie, and if I could catch crappie while sitting down drinking beer in a hot, listening to the radio with my buddies, like
boom. You don't even need a cooler. You just put the beer right on top of the ice.
Yeah, exactly. So, you just throw the fish on the ice too, right?
Yeah,
it's all
same thing.
Yeah, That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well,
Dude, I appreciate this a ton. And
absolutely.
Hopefully we'll get to meet in person soon.
Absolutely. It was nice to meet you, my friend. Thanks, everybody, for listening to the podcast. Check out the Instagram channel. We got all kinds of stupid stuff we're posting on there. So, but other than that, appreciate it. Donnie, great to talk to you, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thanks for having me, brother.
Stormwater Creek is the best. Grinch, the captain. Aim, the helper. Jordan, the problem solver. I hope you like Stormwater Creek. Stormwater Creek.